Good morning and welcome to Korea Today, live from Seoul.
In the end, President Park Geun-hye accepts Health and Welfare Minister Jin Young's resignation after he insisted on stepping down over the newly unveiled basic pension program for senior citizens.
That's right. Min-jung, but guess who else stepped down on Monday? Prosecutor General Choi Dong-wook, who's facing a love child scandal, has also resigned. Details coming up in the headlines.
And 3 affiliates of the conglomerate Dongyang Group filed for court receivership. We'll tell you more on In Print.
Not to be forgotten, here are stories about South Korean soldiers being held back in North Korea after the Korean War. I have more on that later.
It's a multi-billion-dollar affair. Korea restarts its tender process to find its next-generation fighter jets. We take a look at what Korea is in search of for its upcoming fleet. And with the turn of the season comes an unwanted guest, allergic rhinitis. How do you fight off this condition that can cause a lack of concentration, fatigue, and most of all, discomfort? On Tuesday, October 1st, 2013.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
Good to have you with us on Korea Today on this Tuesday morning. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for watching. Brand advertising or brand consulting company Interbrand has been publishing the annual Global Brands Report. It's the best global brands report, and they rate some of the 100 of the best. And they just released their 100 most valuable brands this Monday. Now, what's interesting is that Apple and Google has overtaken the now former most valuable brand, Coca-Cola, and Samsung overtook Intel for the number 8 spot.
An executive at Samsung attributed the company's rise to the company's adoption of a new brand strategy called Brand Ideal, which focuses on improving people's lives. And 2 other Korean companies have made the list. Hyundai Motor ranked 43rd, up from 53rd last year, while Kia Motors ranked 83rd, up 4 notches from last year.
The top 10 include many of the brands that have really done something to change our lives and the way we live.
It certainly has changed our lives, right? All right, we'll begin Korea Today on this Tuesday morning with a look at the day's headlines.
Welfare Minister Jin Young's resignation after stirring up a political storm was finally accepted by President Park Geun-hye on Monday. At a senior secretariat meeting, she had a few words to share, and although not directed at anyone in particular, they seem to carry a hidden message.
비판을 피해간다고 문제가 해결되지는 않습니다. 당당하게 모든 문제를 해결해낼 수 있다는 의지와 신념이 결국 그 문제를 해결해낼 수 있는 것입니다.
The non-resigned minister had opposed the cabinet's decision to introduce a new pension scheme which provides those who put more into the state pension less in senior citizenship pension. Jin has insisted that the new policy doesn't do the public justice, saying he cannot convince parliament or the people when he is unable to stand by it himself. The presidential office says there will be no cabinet reshuffle for the time being. And the welfare minister was not the only person resigning on Monday. Prosecutor General Choi Dong-wook, who has been facing a love child scandal, also stepped down from his post. At his resignation ceremony, Choi said he may not have been the best father and husband, but has lived a respectable life as a father and husband and will continue to do so. Later in the day, however, Choi withdrew his lawsuit against the Joseonilbo, the local daily that reported he had fathered a son out of wedlock, saying no meaningful legal progress can be made until a DNA test is conducted. The main opposition Democratic Party, in the meantime, claims how Choi resigned is part of a devious plan by the presidential office to appoint someone that suits the taste of Cheongwade to lead the prosecution. And back at the nation's top office, President Park has blamed the Japanese leadership for hindering the process of establishing trust between the 2 countries. The remarks were made when visiting U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel brought up the need for Seoul and Tokyo to resolve their historical issues for a stronger security cooperation with Washington. Stating that the Abe cabinet and Japanese lawmakers continue to make comments that insult the Korean people, including wartime Secretary ex-slave issues, President Park said it's something that cannot be resolved by simply having the two leaders sit down and talk. She added the strained relations will continue unless Tokyo displays sincerity. China's Golden Week holiday starts today, and Korea is gearing up to receive an estimated 150,000 Chinese tourists during this period. Analysts say many Chinese visitors seem to have chosen Korea over Japan for their holidays over concerns about the radioactive water leakage in Japan's Fukushima region. And there's no doubt it will be a peak season for many department stores and businesses here in Korea.
We are hoping to see a 130% increase in sales compared to last year because individual Chinese customers spend over roughly 1 million won. We are planning to provide them with interpreters who can act as personal shopping assistants.
The number of visitors from China for the first 8 months of this year surpassed 2.9 million, already exceeding last year's total of 2.8 million. And with high spending per person, competition is heating up among domestic business owners to capture the hearts of the Chinese tourists.
And good morning, everyone. There's no shortage of political news these days, and they continue to cover several of our front pages today. So let's go ahead and launch today's In Print with a look at 조선일보. Its main headline, or it has a headline that captures the testimony of a former housekeeper to Im, the woman believed to have bore former Prosecutor General Choi Dong-uk's love child, according to some. The headline itself is quite long. It reads, Choi Dong-uk taught English and prepared 돌 party for a son out of wedlock. Son's mother came with men to threaten me not to divulge. Now, 조선일보's broadcasting arm, TV Chosun, ran an exclusive interview yesterday with the said housekeeper/nanny, a 61-year-old surnamed E, and she told the TV station that she worked for Im from 2003 to 2007, and during that time, she often saw the former Prosecutor General Che at the home, and that he often stayed the night. Now, she showed a thank you note that she said was given to her for taking good care of the boy, signed so-and-so's father. And she said that when Im failed to pay back a debt she had loaned to her, her former boss came armed with men to tell her never to speak of the debt again and also never to speak on the child's father. Meanwhile, Choi Dong-uk, as you heard earlier in the headlines, officially stepped down from his post yesterday after spending 180 days as the country's prosecutor general. He has maintained his innocence to allegations against him, saying that it seems this housekeeper has mistaken him for someone else. All right, and taking a look at 경향신문 now, it has another hot potato political story on its front page. The headline reads, the presidential office of 청와대, Prime Minister ruling party make a traitor out of Minister Jin Young. And the sub-headlines go on to add that President Park Geun-hye shot determined criticism when she underlined that the cabinet members needed to serve with responsibility and a sense of duty, while one ruling party lawmaker graded Jin as a F minister who gave the president big problems, this as Jin's resignation was being processed. We'll leave that there and take a quick look at the front page of 동아일보. We'll go ahead and take a look at this story here. It also covers the same story headlining the president's sentiment that avoiding criticism doesn't solve problems, as it says in the headline. And you heard her say that in the headlines. And scooting right over to 중앙일보 now, it also has a story on Health and Welfare Minister Jin Young, namely that on the heels of his approved resignation, the president rebutted a rumor that had been circulating by stating that there would be no reshuffle of her cabinet. Meanwhile, the front page image shows U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel inside one of the blue conference houses at the truce village of Panmunjom, looking out at a window. And the image title reads, U.S. Secretary of Defense staring at North Korea. And those are North Korean soldiers standing on the other side of that window there, according to the caption. Hagel is in Seoul to discuss with his counterpart whether to extend America's wartime control control over Seoul's armed forces. And answering reporter questions after this tour, the U.S. Defense Minister said one of the most important elements to the issue will be missile defense, adding that it is not yet time to consider another extension of the 2015 deadline. And finally, let's take a look at our business newspaper for today. One big news item in the business realm this week is the fate of the conglomerate Dongyang Group. And Korea Economic Daily has a story as its top. As the headline reads, in the end, Dongyang Group enters process of breakup. And as you can see in the included insert, Dongyang Group is made up of multiple units here, and the group filed for court receivership on its 3 affiliates marked in red yesterday to avoid bankruptcy after it failed to pay investors their due on its commercial papers. Now, as the total amount the group owes in commercial bonds is much larger than what was due yesterday, totaling some 900 billion won, or roughly $837 million with an annual return of 7 to 8%. Concern is rising that more investors will be hit. And the article also adds that pressure is rising on the Financial Supervisory Commission for its apparent lax management oversight. And with that, we'll wrap your look at what's in print on this Tuesday. Next up, your closing numbers from Monday's market action.
Now, it's 12 minutes past the hour on Korea Today. It's time to get a check on the weather conditions. There's a special event going on, or that is to take place today in Gwanghwamun Square.
Let's go over to her right now, get a check on the weather first. Good morning, Dami.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm reporting live from Gwanghwamun Square, where there will be a special event celebrating the Armed Forces Day, which is today here in Korea. As for the weather on this first day of October, we're starting the morning off with partly cloudy skies, and it looks like the sun is hiding behind the clouds. There is also a bit of a breeze in the air, which is making the atmosphere a bit cooler. Temperatures are at 17 degrees Celsius, but later in the day, our highs will rise, and it will be on the hotter side. But it looks like these conditions won't last too long, as tomorrow we are expecting nationwide precipitation. Now, once the rain does clear out, it looks like our lows are going to significantly drop. And on Thursday, which is a national holiday, it looks like our lows will be dipping down to the pre-teens. Now, I know a lot of you are probably planning to head outdoors on Thursday, but do keep in mind that the weather is going to be cold, so make sure to dress accordingly. All right, let's now get a check on today's weather. Here in the nation's capital, highs will rise to 26. Daejeon and Daegu will both incline to 27. Gangneung will be the coolest at 22. Busan at 27. Gwangju at 28. And Jeju at 26 degrees. Today's not a national holiday, but the national flag is raised to recognize and honor the South Korean military. That's all for the weather, but I'll be back later in the show.
Today is Armed Forces Day here in Korea. It's not a national holiday, but the national flag is raised to honor the South Korean military. And today we're going to focus on a group of soldiers who often are forgotten, the South Korean soldiers who remain prisoners of war in North Korea following the Korean War. And Kim Chan-ju joins us with details. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, as you mentioned, Minjung, large number of South Korean soldiers during the Korean War back in the 50s were detained in North Korea as prisoners of war, or POW. But even after the armistice agreement, there still remain large number of soldiers who are still trapped in the north. So I went out to find out the stories about those who should have been returned to their families and those who are still waiting with hope. Let's take a look. Ahead of Armed Forces Day in Korea, a group of special soldiers have gathered at the War Memorial of Korea in Yongsan-gu, Seoul. These old Korean soldiers with gray hair fought for the country during the Korean War and were held captive by North Korea for decades.
I came back to the South in August 2000. Even if you are determined to escape North Korea, the escape is not guaranteed, not to mention the danger. But because I was a South Korean soldier, it was my desperate wish to be buried in my motherland. That is why, at the risk of our families in the north, some of us decide to escape.
In July 1953, about 7 to 8 South Korean soldiers, including myself, tried to escape the north, but we were caught, and I had to serve a prison sentence of 13 years. While living in North Korea, one of my sons died, but I brought my other son to the south. We're living a good life now.
At last year's meeting, some 50 POWs attended, but it was only 16 this year. A growing number of them have either passed away or have become too frail to venture outside. Despite the armistice agreement, many prisoners of war were never sent back from the north, becoming lost or forgotten POWs. It's estimated that roughly 82,000 South Korean combatants were detained in the north during the Korean War. However, during the exchange of POWs between the UN and communist forces, only 10% of the South's prisoners returned to home, and it's speculated that most of the rest died enduring hardships in North Korea.
The South Korean government estimates that the number of South Korean soldiers detained in North Korea is about 500 as of now. This number is based on testimonies from soldiers who returned home after the 90s, as well as North Korean defectors.
According to South Korean POWs who managed to return, their lives in the north were full of endless pain. They spent most of their time in underground mines under watchful eyes. But what made it more unbearable was the pain inflicted on their family members.
We were being monitored for our political activities, while our children were not able to go to good schools or succeed in society. And they were not even allowed to move. We would have had to work in the mines until we died.
Son Myung-hwa defected to the south 7 years ago. Her father, also a POW, worked at a mine for 30 years before passing away. She escaped to North Korea after continuous persecution and decided to come to her father's homeland.
My father passed away when I lived in North Korea, but my mother, who remained in the north, died 4 years after I defected. I did not get to see my own parents passing. After going through this pain, I realized how much my father must have longed for his hometown and family. I am finally feeling his pain.
At the Korean POW Repatriation Commission, which was created on September 24th, phone calls from families of POWs trying to locate their family members in the north continue to stream in. Even after the armistice agreement in 1953, the issue of South Korean POWs were not addressed by North Korea, and there has been no progress on the issue of their return. As for now, the only way for South Korean POWs to return to their homeland is to escape the north. A bill on North Korean human rights, which included the matter of POW repatriation, was introduced in the South's parliament in 2005. But with questions surrounding its effectiveness, it still remains adrift. The lack of awareness from the public is also another problem.
Former North Korean founder and leaders Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il are dead, but the current leader Kim Jong-un continues to violate the Geneva Convention. South Korean POWs were put in prison camps and forced to work under inhumane conditions, and their children are also being persecuted. We need to resolve this issue.
The South Korean POW issue is a clear violation of the Geneva Convention. The Korean POW Repatriation Commission, for this reason, plans to file a lawsuit against the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un before the International Criminal Court. It's not only an effort to resolve the issue, but also to raise public awareness.
We plan to file a lawsuit against North Korean leader Kim Jong-un before the International Criminal Court. The UN has newly established a commission of inquiry on human rights in North Korea, so it would be ideal if the issue of South Korean POWs is investigated as well. Now, seeing some of the images of the actual POWs at the luncheon, you can almost see the pain and the difficulties that they face in each and every single wrinkle.
These gentlemen, right?
That's right. So you had a chance to meet these POWs right there. What was it like? What did you feel?
It was, I rarely get emotional while covering the story, but this case was particularly emotional. The fact that they went through such hardship and endurance during their time in North Korea. And as you saw in the video, there are so many POWs who tried to escape and they were sentenced in prison, and there was one POW I spoke to who served in the prison for 13 years. And there was another person who I spoke to, and then he served in the prison for 20 years. And these are just a couple of POWs out of hundreds of the POWs who may still be in North Korea. So it was very emotional and heartbreaking, the fact that their only wish is to come back to their homeland. And when I visited the Korean POW Repatriation Commission, I saw hundreds of letters that flood in, and also heard about the phone calls that they received daily. Just make you realize how many POWs and their families are still trying to verify if they're still alive or dead. But it is difficult for them because there are not many representative organizations and there is little interest and awareness in the country.
I mean, North Korea is still denying the matter, and the fact of the matter is that there's really no clear-cut solution to this issue.
Exactly. North Korea, when it comes to POW, they hold its stance, and it claims that they returned all of South Korean soldiers after the armistice agreement. But so for Seoul's point of view, it is forced to treat it lightly in case it worsens the political climate between the two sides.
Maybe we can look to other countries to gain some insight for a possible solution. How are other governments tackling the issue of POWs?
Well, during the Cold War, West Germany, which had a similar situation as us, focused on finding public figures who are involved in East Germany's anti-establishment through policies led by civic groups. In the US, they run an office for missing POWs under the Department of Defense. And in Korea, at the National Assembly recently adopted a resolution to prompt the repatriation of POWs at its plenary session last June, but there still needs to be more clear and detailed plans to solve this issue.
And we hope a solution does come rather quickly because a lot of these POWs are getting rather old.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
80s and 90s. And, North Korea is obligated to abide by the terms of the 1949 Geneva Convention, but they're still denying the existence of these soldiers. So it is kind of urgent that there needs to be more measures to solve this issue.
All right, thank you very much, Chanju, for this report.
Thank you.
All right, changing gears, still ahead on Korea Today, we're going to take a look at some new technology that may blow you away. Transparent display technology that reflects surrounding objects and the environment as is. We take a look at a see-through interactive wall, a transparent GPS system, and an almost invisible keyboard that weighs nothing.
Last week, Seoul's Defense Ministry announced it will start from scratch the selecting process of its next-generation warplanes, saying the only candidate in this bid, the F-15 Silent Eagle, lacked advanced stealth capabilities.
That's right. Countries like Japan, China, and Russia have already acquired or are in the process of acquiring fifth-generation fighter jets. And the fact is that if Korea is going to select its fleet of fighter jets that are going to serve the Air Force until the year 2050, it needs fifth generation or something of that type or category. So we'll take a look at the type of technology that Korea needs in its new fleet.
One week ago, Korea's Defense Ministry announced that it will restart the tender process for its next-generation fighter jets.
Reflecting the recent trends in aviation technology with a strong emphasis on fifth-generation fighter jets, we decided it was important to secure military power that meets this requirement.
The only candidate in the fighter experimental project, the F-15 Silent Eagle, was voted down by the project committee, which expressed its will to secure fifth-generation warplanes. The fifth-generation fighter jets with cutting-edge technology referred to by the Defense Ministry are planes that have an upper hand in electronic warfare.
One of the lead characteristics of fifth-generation planes is their stealth capabilities. There are also high-speed cruisers called Super Cruise, which can travel at supersonic speeds. And not only that, the fifth-generation planes also can jump sideways or upwards with conventional weapons attached to them, so they are highly functional.
And one of the key elements of these planes is their stealth capability. This refers to advanced radar evading skills for concealment during flight. By using special materials when building the fighter jet, it can absorb or reflect radar signals, making it difficult to detect the plane. It is hard for regular planes to discover these stealth fighters, giving the advanced warplanes an advantage in combat.
If we could see even birds on radars, it would cause a lot of confusion. That's why the radars these days exclude smaller objects. And because stealth fighters are detected as the size of birds, that's why they are excluded from radar readings.
However, the sole candidate, the F-15 Silent Eagle, is believed to have been voted down due to its limited stealth capabilities, found only in the front portion of the jet. It has already been some time since countries in the region have been battling for advanced stealth technology. China's fifth-generation fighter, the Zhen-20, can reach up to speeds of Mach 2.0, which puts Korea and Japan in the range of its attack. The Zhen-20 is expected to be deployed in 2017. Russia is also developing its stealth fighter, the T-50 PAK-FA, with the goal of completing development in the year 2016. Along with its stealth capabilities, it has radar that can detect objects within a 400-kilometer range. The flight range puts Korea and Japan within its scope of operation. Japan will begin utilizing in 2017 42 Lockheed Martin F-35s, which lost out to the F-15 Silent Eagle in Korea's initial tender process. Tokyo also plans to start developing its own stealth fighters in 2016.
There's a great possibility that conflicts will arise with China and Japan surrounding Dokdo and Yeodo. If China or Japan's stealth fighters invade our airspace, there is not much we can do without stealth fighters. So this is one of the reasons why there is a strong preference for jets with stealth capabilities.
In lieu of growing competition on the military front from neighboring countries, Korea is currently facing an increased demand for fifth-generation fighter jets.
To prepare for future national defense, securing fifth-generation fighter jets is not the only thing necessary. There must be a balance with conventional weapons development, so the country has comprehensive readiness for various situations. But having fifth-generation jets and not having them will make a very big difference in future defense capabilities.
Stealth fighters enter the weakest part of the enemy's air defense network. In order to do so, they need to know what that network is like. That's why not only do we need stealth fighter jets, we also need to swiftly introduce additional electronic equipment.
There's still a long process ahead in securing advanced next-generation fighter jets. And with the restart of the tender process for the country's next-generation fighter jets, there's a greater demand to adopt technology that will maintain a healthy balance of power in the surrounding region.
The Korean Air Force has been working on the fighter experimental or the FX project since 2009, and the original plan was to replace 100 of its older F-4 and F-5 planes by 2019 and introduce the next generation jets.
But the bid for the FS project is back to square one, and there were media hype about how the South Korean government seems determined to equip the country with stealth fighters.
That's right. The government has said that it will consider all available options and try to stay in the budget and maybe order a combination of jets, the fifth generation as well as the fourth generation. But the fact is that the current fleet is aging, and this needs to be done as soon as possible, and we do need to get the best technology acquirable.
All right, let's shift gears once again and go to our Dami, who is standing by live at the Gwanghwamun Square in Jongno-gu, Seoul. There's a celebration for Armed Forces Day here in Korea.
That's right.
She is looking like one, what is that?
She's kind of an Air Force and a Marine.
I don't know how to characterize that
I'm confused,
look.
Dami. Tell us about your look.
Back to you, Dami.
Okay, thank you guys. I'm back reporting live from Gwanghwamun Square. Today is October 1st, and here in Korea it is Armed Forces Day. Now this day is commemorating the South Korean, when the South Korean forces broke through the 38th parallel, pushing back the North Korean troops back in the 1950 of the Korean War. Now today marks the 65th anniversary of the foundation of the Korean military, and it will be the largest celebration for the Armed Forces Day in the past decade. Now, near the Gwanghwamun Square, I also want to show you a hanging of the picture, which basically symbolizes the strength or the strong spirit of the armed forces. And if you look over there, basically this artwork was designed by fashion designer Lee Sang-bong, and it was created and donated by actor Cho Dal-hwan. Now, on the picture it says "강한 힘 국군," which basically is saying the strength of Korea's military. Now today, starting at 4 p.m. here at Gwanghwamun Square, also Seoul Plaza, Cheonggye Stream, and other places will be holding events celebrating the Armed Forces Day. There will be about 11,000 soldiers taking participation from the Army, the Navy, and Air Force troops. Now, you can't forget the street parade as well, which will be held later at 4 p.m. from Gwanghwamun to Sungnaemun. Now, the parade will consist of the latest equipment and new weapons, such as the cruise missile Hyunmoo-3, also Korea's airmobile helicopter Suryeon. There will also be about 190 pieces of ground equipment or armed vehicles and 120 military aircrafts. Now, the parade starts later today at 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. from Sungnaemun to Gwanghwamun to Dongdaemun and Seodaemun. But because of the street parade, you will have to keep your heads up on road conditions, as areas around Seoul Station, Daejongno, Chonggak Station intersection, and Dongmyo will be under partial control from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And some streets around Seoul Station, Seoullo, Sungnaemun, and Sejong Road will be blocked from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Now, here at Gwanghwamun Square, also over in Seoul Plaza, there will be many experience booths that you can try out, such as eating food from the military or fast food. In Korea, we call it kundaeria. There's also a place where you can take pictures at the photo booth and many more experiences. So if you have the time today, you should definitely stop by and experience it for yourself, and also check out the parade, which is in celebration of the Armed Forces Day. I'm Idami, Korea Today.
And we saw a preview of some of this technology ahead in the beginning of our program. Now, this is technology that you usually normally see on movies like Minority Report, where they just have a transparent screen and they're doing all kinds of computing activities on it. James Meng joins us today to talk about these and much more. Good morning.
Good morning. Today, I'd like to show you technologies regarding transparent devices. Let's take a closer look. A building that is made to look transparent, using LED projectors that beam the building's surrounding image on its outer walls. Or a smartphone that you can see through. These technologies are some that are now one step closer to becoming reality. Recently, Korea's KAIST University developed a transparent wall where you can enjoy a multitude of contents. This glass screen is a new concept medium called a trans wall. It allows you to use a touch system on both sides. By having two people stand on either side of the transparent glass wall and putting their hands together, they can draw various pictures in all colors and shapes. You can also draw on the person standing on the other side, making it an interactive display screen. Not only that, using the fact that the left and right appear reversed, you can also play a simple word game.
The transwall has a holographic screen between two plates of glass, so you can play videos on the display screen. And it has an infrared sensor on both sides, so you can detect touch from both sides.
Especially by rubbing hands from both sides, you can combine bubbles or even play music by touching the glass from either side. You can also create an invisible hole and you see the other person through it. The trans wall was recently selected as the highlight of the 2013 SIGGRAPH Emerging Technologies Conference, drawing much attention from many of those attending.
We hope it can be used in museums or theme parks and other public areas, so people can play games and use various contents.
Transparent display technology is making a greater mark in the display field. This is a transparent GPS system built using none other than a transparent OLED panel.
The existing head-up display system was fainter during the day or had double images displayed, but this product has an auto-illumination intensity sensor, so there is no visual inconvenience.
We tried test driving a car with this transparent OLED GPS system.
Okay, I'm going to start driving right now.
It is connected via Bluetooth when you launch the GPS app on your smartphone, and it provides essential information such as immediate directions, current speed, distance remaining, and speed limits, allowing for easy comprehension. It contains an auto brightness sensor that provides a clear display regardless of the time of day.
When using GPS systems, you have to gaze down, but this transparent display is easy to use because it is right in front of you. Even in strong sunlight, you can see the information clearly without difficulty.
There's another special technology that allows you to launch a transparent keyboard regardless of where you are. By hooking up the small device called Magic Cube with the smartphone or tablet PC via Bluetooth or a USB port, the cube projects a keyboard on a flat, opaque surface which you can type on. It uses an action detection sensor that picks up the movement of the laser and fingers. And there's also an infrared module to increase the accuracy of typing. The development of transparent technology, which reflects all of your surroundings, is expected to expand to a greater variety of fields.
Okay, I saw the keyboard, right? The keyboard, it actually has a little module, and I've actually seen some previews of it before in the past when they were still in the developmental stage. Tell us about the keyboard a little bit.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
It is very
yes,
cool.
it is. It's actually very light. And
the
as you can
projector,
see,
you mean, right?
Yes. The projector is very light, and it's very, as you can see, it's very transparent. And it's very easy to carry around because it's very small. The size of the projector is actually half the size of a cigarette pack. And it's just a bit thicker, so it's very easy to carry around. And there's no restrictions where you want to use it. You could just put it in a flat surface, and you can use it anywhere
and
you
voila,
like.
and there's your keyboard.
Right. Carrying around that big, bulky keyboard that we all use, you can just use a little projection device. It's amazing how that works.
Right, but I would think you would have more typos, right?
Right, exactly. Because when on a touchpad, it's a little bit more difficult than a conventional keyboard.
Yeah, I actually went and used the keyboard, and it takes time getting used to it at first, but once you get used to it, the portability factor is unbelievable. It's very convenient.
Okay, all right. So how can this technology be used in the future, the transparent technology?
Transparent technology is, it allows you to see surroundings without obstructing your vision. Currently, smartphones and TVs are using this technology, and experts say that it will be lighter and thinner and more energy efficient.
Yeah, what do they do with all the semiconductors inside the phone and all the wires, right? But I just got an idea. I saw a flash from the future. So the future, in our future, automobiles are going to have windshield made of this product, this transparent screen,
neat,
where it displays everything on that windshield.
I am worried about you, Young.
All right, James, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And still ahead on Korea Today, do you have a chronic runny nose? Raise your hand. And endless sneezes and nasal congestion. It may be time to receive a checkup on the nose. The number of patients with allergic rhinitis is on the rise. We look at how it differs from the common cold and what can be done. Stay tuned.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all, but not so much so if your name is Park Ji-young. That's right, manager Hong Myung-bo announced his latest roster for the upcoming October friendlies, and Park Ji-young was not included once again. With the Arsenal striker not seeing any playing time with his English side, manager Hong Myung-bo has decided to leave him off the roster once again. However, rejoining the national team will be midfielder Ki Sung-young of Sunderland, who finally gets the nod. Of course, Ki was left off the roster amid the SNS controversy, but will be given a second chance going into the friendlies against Brazil and Mali. And moving on to the Korean Basketball League, the upcoming KBL season will be an exciting one as the 2013 KBL draft class was pretty stacked. In fact, with the KBL draft taking place on Monday, the LG Sakers came out on top with the first pick. And with the first pick overall, the LG Sakers selected Kyunghee University center Kim Jong-gyu, who averaged nearly 20 points per game and over 10 rebounds per game with over 2 blocks per game as well. Meanwhile, 2 other Kyunghee University stars went second and third overall as KCC selected Kim Min-gu while Dongbu selected Do Kyung-min. If you're a baseball fan here in the nation, you gotta love what's going on right now in the pennant race. Just a few more games left in the regular season and we still don't know who's going to win the pennant. But these 4 teams aren't going anywhere. The Kia Tigers beat the NC Dinos 3-0 and the Lotte Giants all over the SK Wyverns 7-1. So with that said, let's take a look at the other 2 games that took place last night, starting off with the Doosan Bears and the LG Twins facing off in Seoul. We're going to start off in the second inning of the game here. Here is Kim Jae-ho with an RBI double to left field, scores Lee Won-suk, and it's 1-0 Doosan. Going to go over to the next play. Hug Young-min drills this one to deep left center field. This one splits the gap, and it's a 2-run triple as Doosan takes an early 3-0 lead. Shifting over to the 4th inning, here's Min Byung-hun, a 2-run single to left, and already it's 5-0. 6th inning, LG answers back with Lee Byung-gyu's RBI single to right field. Before this next play here, Chung Sung-hoon grounds this one to third. Lee Won-suk, he's going to decide to go home here, and Oh Ji-hwan scores, and everyone's safe. 5-2 Doosan. Shifting to the 7th inning, here's Choi Ju-hwan pinch hitting with the bases loaded. Sends one to left field. A sac fly extends Doosan's lead to 6-2. Bottom of the 9th inning we go. Here is Doosan up 7-2. Kim Yong-hee with an RBI single to right, and all of a sudden it's now 7-3. Next play, bases loaded. Oh Ji-hwan at bat. Can he be the hero? No, he pops up to third. Ball game over. The Doosan Bears take this game 7-3. And next up, the Samsung Lions taking on the Hanwha Eagles. Second inning, Choi Hyung-woo leads off the inning, and he absolutely crushes this ball to deep right field. Solo shot for the former MVP. Next play, Lee Jung-sik here, an RBI single to right, and it's 2-0 Samsung. Next batter, here's Kim Sang-soo, an RBI single up the middle. Lee Sang-hoon comes in to score, and it's 3-0. 4th inning, Lee Jung-sik at bat, and he's going to send this one to deep left field, and there it goes, a 2-run shot, and it's now 5-0. 5th inning, more long balls. This time, here's Park Sung-min. Hello and goodbye, a solo shot over the left center field wall. 7th inning, here is the 4th Samsung home run on the 9th. This time, Park Han-hee joins the group. A 3-run shot to right center field, and it's now 9-0. Gonna go to the bottom of the inning. Hanwha's Chung Hyun-suk here. This guy's gonna drive this one to deep left field. A solo shot cuts the deficit, but no matter as the Samsung Lions crush the Hanwha Eagles 9-2. Now finishing things off from last Friday to Sunday, big names such as Park In-bi, Yoo So-yeon, and other top-class golf stars faced off with some of the leading names in the KLPGA during the KDB Daewoo Securities Classic. Now, with that said, we're going to take you there to the event.
Last week, the KDB Daewoo Securities Classic kicked off in Pyeongchang, Gangwon Province, with many golf fans and members of the press present despite the bad weather. This is because the biggest names in Korea's women's golf, Park In-bi, Park Se-ri, Choi Na-yeon, and Yoo So-yeon, all active in the LPGA, came together for this game. Especially notable was Park In-bi, who currently holds the top spot in women's golf ranking, and who also recently grabbed global attention for winning 3 consecutive major titles in one season for the first time in 63 years. Also, Choi Na-yeon, who grabbed victory at the U.S. Women's Open last year and ranks number 6, showed off her determination ahead of her first competition this year in Korea. And Yoo So-yeon, named Rookie of the Year in 2012, was also considered one of the strong contenders in the game.
One of the players who grabbed a lot of attention was Park Se-ri, widely viewed as Korea's legend in women's professional golf. All of the country's top golfers active on the global stage came together to face off in a heated battle. Up against them were the leading KLPGA players with Kim Se-young, who grabbed 3 victories this season, one of the most vicious rookies Kim Hyo-ju and Yang Soo-jin. Avid golf fans flocked to watch each and every swing of the star golfers.
It felt great to watch players like Park Se-ri, Park In-bi, Yoo So-yeon, and Choi Na-yeon, who are all active in the LPGA.
It was a new experience, and I learned that you can hit the ball in all kinds of locations.
With some of the best players on the field, the heated competition finally came to an end. In the end, it was Bae Hee-kyung who came out the winner with 6 birdies in the final 3 rounds. Kim Han-il came in second and Yang Soo-jin third. Meanwhile, the star LPGA players struggled some with Park In-bi and Yoo So-yeon, ending in a tie for 10th place. Players in the KLPGA performed exceptionally well in this match, showing off Korea's growing competitiveness in the sport.
And best of luck to them, and that is going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
So my colleagues have been complaining about my runny nose, but it's not just me. A lot of people suffer from allergic rhinitis around this time of the year, and not to be confused with a common cold. It could lead to some complications. And joining us for more on this is Dr. Alice Hyung-Young-dan. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Right, so the symptoms of allergic rhinitis are commonly runny, stuffy nose, itchy, watery eyes, and sneezing. And although allergic rhinitis is not a life-threatening condition, if it's not well controlled, the patient just feels miserable. Also, stuffy nose can make it difficult to breathe, sleep, and exercise. And a lot of times patients complain that they feel tired or have a hard time concentrating at school or work because of the symptoms. So it is an important disease.
So that's how you've been feeling difficulty concentrating at work. Thank you guys for understanding.
And all we were doing was complaining.
Well, we'll take a look at this short clip first.
Autumn is here and there's a cool breeze in the air. It's this time of year when we see more people visiting the hospital with allergic rhinitis symptoms such as a runny nose, nasal congestion, and sneezing. According to a recent study, the number of patients with allergic rhinitis has increased by 28% over the past 5 years, and the numbers see a sharp increase during the fall season.
There's a lot of pollen in the fall season that causes allergies. And recently, there's a lot of pollution. More people are going out and about, so we are seeing an increase in patients with allergic rhinitis.
Allergic rhinitis is often mistaken for the flu because the symptoms are similar.
I have a runny nose, and the inside of my nose is itchy, so I sneeze a lot.
I can't control my coughing, and my nose is runny.
Allergic rhinitis causes clear discharge from the nose, a stuffy nose, or sneezing, whereas a cold comes with a fever, body aches, and headaches. The allergy usually lasts for 1 or 2 months, but flu symptoms mostly disappear within a week. What is the cause of allergic rhinitis? The allergy is usually brought on when particles such as dust, pollen, mold, and animal fur enter the mucous membrane, causing the immune system to overreact. If you compare the nasal passage of a normal person with that of an allergic rhinitis patient, you can see that the mucous membrane is swollen and holds much nasal discharge. The greater problem is that without timely treatment, it can lead to other complications such as ear infections.
In the case of growing children, they can experience a loss of concentration, and it can also deter health growth. Also, if they breathe through their mouths due to chronic nasal congestion, they may be subject to anechoic faces, which causes the mid-face to look longer, so a lot of attention is required. Symptoms vary among allergic rhinitis patients, so it's important to visit the hospital. A skin test is used to determine what is causing the allergic reaction, and when the substance in question is administered during the test, the skin swells up like a mosquito bite. Not only that, an endoscope may be used to check on the symptoms and provide treatment.
We are mainly using a certain amount of antihistamines and intranasal steroids. In the case that there is a structural problem with the nose as opposed to just having allergic rhinitis, we do use surgery as an alternate treatment to relieve nasal congestion.
Steam treatment can be used, or infrared treatment is another option. It raises the temperature deep inside the ears or mucous membrane in the nose and helps with blood circulation. Meanwhile, in Oriental medicine, acupuncture is used on pressure points to reduce the symptoms and strengthen the respiratory function of the nose. According to a study by the Korea Institute of Oriental Medicine, the symptoms of nasal congestion, nasal discharge, and sneezing were reduced through the use of acupuncture on allergic rhinitis patients.
In Oriental treatment, we increase the temperature control in the body so that it can adjust to outside temperature differences.
Massaging each side of the nose or the round tips to stimulate blood circulation and keep the lungs warm can also prevent the symptoms. Taking foot baths regularly also helps prevent allergic rhinitis. People with this condition should also clean their nose with saline through one nostril and pass it through the other. According to a recent study from Seoul National University Hospital, if you lack in vitamin D, it can dramatically increase the possibility of getting allergic rhinitis by anywhere up to 56%. Vitamin D mostly comes from exposure to sunlight. That's why getting at least 20 minutes of sunlight during the day is good for you.
There are certain foods that are good for fighting off allergic rhinitis. Root plants such as radish, carrot, lotus root, and ma, or Chinese yam, are especially good.
Not only that, consuming ginger and jujube is good for strengthening the nasal mucous membrane, so drinking it as tea after a thorough cleaning can also help prevent and manage the symptoms.
Some tea might help,
Okay, so we just learned a whole lot of information about allergic rhinitis, but that was a lot to take in this morning. I was wondering if we could do a short quiz to test our knowledge. Yeah, so
I thought you said there was a lot to take. That was a lot to take in.
As a review and just to solidify our information. Okay, so question number 1. Allergic rhinitis is a genetic condition. True or false?
I would say true.
I say true.
Okay, very, very good. So yes, most allergies do tend to have an allergic component. So if one parent has allergies, then there's a chance, 1 in 3 chance that the child will have allergies. If both parents have allergies, then there's up to 70% chance that the child will have allergies. But because allergic rhinitis also involves an interaction with the environment, whether or not the child will have symptoms, what symptoms and to what degree can vary from person to person. Yes.
What's our next question?
Okay, question number 2. You can be completely cured of allergic rhinitis. True
I
or
know
false?
this one.
I don't know. I say false.
I think I've heard.
Say true.
Okay.
I say you learn to deal with the
I'm
symptoms.
hopeful.
I'm an
optimist.
optimist.
Yes.
Okay, so my answer is true.
Oh.
Sort of as a glasses half full
I'm
answer.
happy to be wrong though today.
Because if you use immunotherapy, so either as subcutaneous injections or sublingual or under the tongue medicines, that can actually lead to a semi-permanent cure of allergic rhinitis.
Okay. So I have hope then.
Yeah, you do have hope. Yeah, it's
Okay.
actually quite effective in a lot of people. Yeah. Okay, question number 3. You ready? Steroid shots, so glucocorticoid shots, they offer the best, most effective, and safe treatment for allergic rhinitis? What do you say? True or false?
I'm going to go
steroids.
What is that? Staying on the fence, huh? Okay, then.
just gonna go with
Hyungyung and me.
So maybe that was a little trick question. So IV injection glucocorticoid steroids actually are rarely used to treat allergic rhinitis. Sometimes you can use glucocorticoid steroid pills to treat allergic rhinitis if the symptoms are very severe, causing difficulty sleeping. But the mainstay of treatment is actually intranasal glucocorticoid sprays. And that treatment is actually quite safe and effective if used as directed. So steroid injections, not a good treatment, but steroid sprays, very effective and safe.
Okay, so in the end, basically, if you are suffering from allergic rhinitis, consult with your doctor, see what treatment is right for you so you can get on your way to recovery.
Exactly.
I'd like to find out a lot more about this, but we're out of time today. So after the show, maybe?
Sure, of course.
I'm going to be here for a while.
Thank you so much for your time this morning.
You're welcome.
All right, that's our show for today.
All right, thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here on Wednesday morning at 7 a.m.